Hello? Hello? Can y'all hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me now? All right. Looks like we're good to go now. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson and Jacob, and like every week, I am accompanied by my good friend and co-host, Jacob Young. Jacob, how's it going? Yeah, I'm ready to talk some Toros soccer um, today because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to analyze about this past match against Tulsa. We've got the match against Sacramento at Sacramento. Apparently they hold on. Apparently they cannot speak, Jacob.
Yo. Hello, 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 hello.
Okay, there we go. God. OBS was doing so well these past couple of weeks. And then today it's like, nope, I'm not going to work for you. Anyways, Jacob, say hi just once again because they didn't hear you.
Hello, everyone. Co-host Jacob / bald guy here.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, that's true. What did you do?
I decided to get a 1 all the way around. It's actually pretty nice.
I mean, with this kind of heat, I think everybody needs something like that.
Exactly. Doesn't feel too bad. The only thing that I would recommend, don't go to the beach or don't stay out in the sun too long. But of course, with this weather, yeah, it wouldn't be too bad because it's pretty overcast a lot of the times now, especially with the rain. So that's been good. But yeah, no, looking forward to talking soccer this week. Of course, Dynamo won last night, which is fun. It's kind of a rarity to see that sometimes. But Toros are playing this weekend, and well, Toro fans still want to also secede from Houston, which is still pretty. It's kind of funny in my eyes, but of course, always fun to talk soccer here.
So before we go on, I want to go ahead and say hi to the chat to Harry. Harry, how you doing? He says, so the delay due to recovering from the loss or the Daddy Dynamo win? LOL. He says, hello from San Antonio. And regarding the audio issues, he says, I call that the Harry. Do you do it yourself? Yeah, I'm the one that's got the mixer here and my computer, OBS. You know, I'm the one in charge of it. But sometimes the computer just doesn't want to play nice with me. And sometimes it all piles up. So just like today. So, but anyways, your pick, RGV or Houston to start off the day.
I guess we'll start with some happy news, kind of. So we'll go with Houston.
All right.
Even though, also, real quick side note, Robert Coronado seems like he is doing better than, of course, last week from that injury. So that's also positive news. So just on that side note. But yeah, for sure, starting with Houston because, well, we got a victory last night. Or I say we, but Houston Dynamo got a victory last night, especially in their push for playoffs, which they're shockingly still alive in.
Sometimes you've gotta bless the way MLS is at times. How you can be one of the worst teams ever, but with one little and this is the interesting part. So the Dynamo have been horrible all these past couple of weeks since the Gold Cup break, right?
Yeah.
But their lifeline was their beginning of the season where they were at their best start of the season. Somehow, even with that big old rut, that that beginning of the season has given them a lifeline to even think about trying to make it to the playoffs. Now, the question about this is, you know, you have to have your perfect, if not your perfect game until the end of regular season. And but you still have to rely on other results around you in the Western Conference if you even want to make it to the playoffs. So it doesn't just rely on the Dynamo themselves anymore. And it sucks because it shouldn't have to be like that. We shouldn't have to rely on other teams to make it to the playoffs. Same goes for the Toros. You know, at this point for both teams, it's do your best. Don't have any mental mistakes, but you better pray to whoever you pray for some divine intervention that hopefully the teams above you somehow have the worst spell of their lives.
Exactly. You have to do your best. You have to hope that everyone around you is there. And I think one of the key things is that someone didn't necessarily, or people don't necessarily think about is, well, there was no Albert Elise, and we haven't had Romel Kyoto in the lineup for a while, and yet this team played their best soccer without those two. And shockingly, I've got to give credit to this one man, because he does, except for, of course, one mistake where he tried to tug on a Minnesota United player's jersey and bring him down for a second, but caught himself and decided not to do that, thankfully. Alejandro Fuenmayor actually had a pretty good game, in my opinion.
So, so I was, like I was telling you before we went live, I went with a friend from high school that she lives here in Houston now, and I invited her to the match. And she was telling me about how good like Kevin and Fuenmayor looked. I was like, you have no idea what I've seen. and then when Fueni does that goal line save almost at the end of the match, and I'm like, Fueni, you did a thing. I'm so proud of you. But you have to do it. We have to keep on doing that, because it's one of those things where like he's done more wrongs than rights, and you feel like maybe this game might have been the exception to the norm. But hey, I'll happily take it. And I just hope that it's the beginning of the turnaround for Alejandro Fuenmayor.
Yeah, I have to definitely agree with you on that. It just yes, technically he did about one thing correct, but considering that he was actually hustling down the field and really the team was extremely energized was amazing. And given the circumstances too, credit to the fans, because given those circumstances of all of those losses, you expect crowds that we had against, Colorado, where there were only 8,000, Chicago, where there were maybe less or just a bit more. Instead, there were 13,000 plus. Given those circumstances, that's a good crowd. It's good in the sense that, it's still below normal in any shape, but, you're in such a bad rut that you expect the fans to be turned away constantly. And yes, they are. We've seen the turnaround in numbers big time, but 13,000 still in the stands, I call that a small victory, considering it could have been a lot worse.
I mean, it was a 7-1-3 game as well. That helped out a lot too. But like I always say, you take your small victories wherever you can at this point. So just a quick side note, just because this is Valley news. So State Farm Arena is now Payne Arena.
Oh, dang.
Yes.
God, wow. I mean, about time for sure for it to be a name change, considering the way that Payne Arena is going. That is 3 name changes in a lifespan of one stadium. That is.
To be fair, like State Farm lasted a long time.
It did.
It did, and usually naming rights don't really last that long.
Yeah.
You can ask the FAR Civic, or was it the FAR Convention Center, the FAR Event Center. It was like maybe for like a year. It was the bogus Ford Center. Hashtag not a commercial. But it's just kind of interesting how after a while it seems like the not State Farm Arena, Payne Arena is finally back in the news for something. I think Bird Ogden Arena kind of took away a lot of its thunder.
Well, yeah, considering it was brand new and, well, state of the art.
Centrally located.
Exactly. State of the art, centrally located. Everyone was talking about it for years before it came up and actually even broke ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then State Farm Arena, well, now, of course, Payne Arena. At that time, the last time that I walked into it before, Bird Ogden Arena was totally made, it just was sad.
Yeah.
Like, as in the life had just been ripped out of it. It was not great. And that was for the Vipers like 3 years ago or even 2 years ago, something like that.
I want to be honest. The last time I set foot at that time, State Farm Arena, was when my sister graduated from high school.
Wow.
That was, 2013 or something like that? No.
That's like, wait.
No.
It's almost impossible.
Sorry,
there.
2015.
Yeah.
So in 2015, that's the last time I set foot in that arena because it had become a little bit irrelevant. But anyway, guys, we're going off on a completely different subject. Thank you, Edson, and thank you, The Monitor, for putting that on my Twitter feed. I just thought it was interesting. Anyways, back to the Houston Dynamo. Here's another thing that I liked about last night's match, and I think I'm gonna need to clean my mouth when I say this. But Tommy McNamara actually had a decent game last night.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong there. He looked good. He looked okay. He looked average out there on the field, which, of course, we're talking about it. Like, this whole team had a different feel to it. Once again, it was weird. It was life brought to this squad, considering that you're playing against Minnesota United. Now, Minnesota United, we had known, was kind of on a hot streak. So you're talking about it that way too. It's just blew your mind.
A Minnesota United that defeated LAFC at their home 2-0. Mm-hmm. I went into this match saying they're either going to tie or they're going to lose to Minnesota United. I never expected them to play as well as they did, and they did. I mean, 5-1 loss to Dallas or Frisco, and then a 1-0 loss in a really what's the best word to look for it? Uninspiring manner. They played very uninspiring soccer, and it seems like they all gave up. But then you see yesterday's match, and it's like, what did Davey Arnaud tell them, or what sparked their fire that they had lost? Is it because Elise isn't here, or I don't know, or is it because Kyoto is shunned from the Houston Dynamos? Apparently, well, according to his Instagram, he kind of discreetly is acting like a victim, but at the end of the day, it's like you see this completely different team, and these are the substitutes. I'm talking about. You got your most criticized defenders, Kevin Garcia and Alejandro Fuenmayor. Obviously, you had Lundqvist and DeMarcus Beasley. Now, here's a very interesting part or thing about this match that kind of caught me by surprise. Lundy was playing on the right side instead of his usual left, and he did not look that bad. Granted, when he had the ball, he always had to position himself in a way where he could make the contact with the ball with his left foot, because he's strictly 100% left-footed. But defensive-wise, they did not really look that bad. Now, having said all of these positives, here's a bit of a negative on mine. Number one is, it seems like, Memo Rodriguez came in, did his job. There was a couple opportunities, but it seemed like at that time, like the attackers were on a completely different wavelength. Mauro Manotas, there were many times where he was trying to make the run, trying to create some danger, and nobody else was on par with him. They tried to, Tommy Martinez, there were a couple of times where instead of trying to find that through ball over to Mauro, he just kept the ball and either lost it or tried to pass it back, trying to maintain possession. Now, another thing is, with Memo, there were a couple of times at the very end where I felt like he could have taken the ball to the corner and try to waste some time there. Yeah. And instead of doing that, he would lose the ball and gave Minnesota United a bigger dangerous opportunity to create some danger. And I think that goal that was thankfully called offside, it came from one of those scenarios where the Dynamo, instead of trying to bite some time out in the corner or try to clear it as far as possible, they tried to maintain the possession in the middle of the field. They lost it, and obviously Minnesota United was trying to push men forward, trying to look for that goal. Mm-hmm. Now, I wasn't in a good angle, because I was like to see if it was offside or not, but I'm assuming you watched it on television. Was it really that close of a call?
Yes, it was really that close of a call. And why I'd say that is because, well, the rule of offside, especially when it's like the way it was, you cannot be involved in a play close to the box. You cannot necessarily be blocking a goalkeeper's view.
Okay.
That's exactly what he was doing. He was blocking Joe Willis's view almost directly. And so Joe Willis had to kind of, find a different angle to try and see the ball, but he couldn't necessarily do that. And so, of course, now you're talking about being blocked from the side of a ball, and the guy's offside. Yes, it's going to be necessarily offside. So it was a really great catch from the booth above. That was the VAR refs saying, yeah, go check this one out yourself. It deserves to be checked, and if you want to call it, you can.
And you know what? That was something I did not even notice in that play. Because obviously we were all up following the ball, and I never noticed that that player that it was called on was impeding Joe Willis to make a play in that play. Pardon the redundancy. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Here's the thing. This is why I like VAR when it's done right. Because it saves the opportunity for us to say that Kevin Garcia and oh my dear, Fuenmayor earned a shutout with the Dynamo.
Yep.
I can't believe I just said that. I can't believe I witnessed that. That's the worst part. So everybody, make a wish.
I mean, that was our wish right there. Can they actually have a decent game while our defenders are either trying to heal up or, well, of course, on international duty?
Yeah.
And sure enough, they were able to play well. I mean, Boniek Garcia, of course, I hope that man is okay. That's one of our defenders. And then, of course, Juan David Cabezas right off there. So you're talking about playing with the minimal of players, like the players that might have the mentality to start or anything like that, but are behind senior defenders that are just well, have more experience and are better than them for sure. And then, I mean, even moving on to, yeah, it that was called correctly, but then they also could have used VAR against the Dynamo in a correct way. If we did notice in one of the shot attempts for Houston, or not Houston,
Minnesota.
for Minnesota United in the box, I believe it was off of a corner, it might have been Kevin Garcia that pulled a player down. Luckily, we got away with that.
You know what? I think I remember. Was he like on the near side of the the cameras, the TV side of the field? I'm trying to remember.
Kind of. It was still kind of in the middle, but more towards TV side, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because I think I remember one where one of the Minnesota players fell and everybody was complaining, and the referee waved play on, but no VAR was issued or anything like that. Here's another play that I think maybe might have been influential. I don't know what you guys think, but that tackle that they did on Juan David Cabezas to injure him, that was borderline red for me.
Yeah.
I think he was going in. At a unnecessary roughness, if we want to use a term from NFL.
Yes, I agree. What the problem with their tackles were, with Minnesota United's tackles were late in the game, where they were coming from behind. They weren't necessarily coming from in front. And so you take that into consideration. You just say to yourself, you say to anyone, well, okay, now that's just too aggressive. You don't come from behind on those challenges like that. And that was also, of course, that injury or that play right there, of course, was from the side. You can, on the replay, see Juan David Cabezas' leg move, well, flex the way that a leg's not necessarily supposed to flex. So, I do think, why was he trying to flex his knee when you saw? Well, because, and I was talking to my father at the same time as we were watching the game, probably hyperextended his knee, plus, of course, his ankle. So that's, of course, a double whammy, considering that he just came back from a knee injury. And that's why I kind of thought that it was going to be worse for his knee than anything. So, yeah, that was a reason. Well, not reason, but just Minnesota United needed to go from a different direction than from behind or to the side. And they weren't necessarily trying to get the ball sometimes.
And honestly, this was all just that Minnesota United was just desperate. They felt like nothing was going right for them, especially going up against a team, like we've said, that was doing horrible the past couple of months. And for them to, with their B squad, completely dominate you and prevent you from doing much on Joe Willis, by the way, what a game by Willis as well. How many crucial saves did he have last night?
Exactly.
Like,
it's second half Dynamo that goes again.
It's like they let off the gas a little, but this time they didn't let off the gas as much as they did like when they did again in the Open Cup when we were eliminated by Minnesota United. Remember?
Yes.
This year, where the first half, the first half they were playing well, and then all of a sudden, okay, we forgot how to play soccer in the second half, and now we're eliminated.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's a good sign of things to come from this roster. I think it kind of, at least it gets me a little bit more comfortable thinking that these guys have not checked out from the season. And now we'll have to see how, bringing in the starters, how this team is going to play now. Because if it's the starters that have already checked out of the season, That's my biggest worry right there.
Yeah. But now, of course, Houston fans have gotten to see this bench team take off. I mean, I'm a fan. I'd rather see this team play than with Elise out on the field with
Kyoto.
who else really starts.
Kyoto.
I'd rather see Christian Ramirez with Mara Manotas because they seem like they're on cue. I'd rather see DeMarcus Beasley there because guess what? He was hustling too. It seemed like a different life. Remember this man who also, and Sean said this too on Twitter, I wonder if the Houston Dynamo were the reason for DeMarcus Beasley's retirement. I think it turns out to be it was those starters. I think, yes, of course, it was bad vibes. It doesn't help when your coach can't necessarily, of course, fix it in the end of his term and then having to be fired, which is now, I think, kind of understandable considering if it wasn't fixed by an interim head coach, then it was something even deeper. And now, of course, we have a couple of players gone on international duty and also one that is kind of, well, he's been suspended, is the best way to put it from a club. Then, and this man's playing like he played with, well, I wanted to say Fulham, but that's not the correct team there. With Chicago Fire, with his international.
Didn't he play in Man City as well?
Back in the day?
Didn't he play Beasley play in Man City as well?
Yeah, there we go.
So, you know, I was completely interested when I saw the lineup, seeing that we were going to play a 4-4-2 with Christian Ramirez and Mara Manotas up front. And I think those two are getting along so well. Their chemistry is getting a whole lot better. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do. Now, because of this, now let's go, you know, it'll be interesting to see how that is going to affect the Toros. And we're starting to see a little bit of that in the last couple of weeks when they brought in Michael Salazar.
Yeah, they brought in Michael Salazar, and that kind of affected our team. But with Eric Bird, it didn't necessarily affect our team. It kind of benefited or helped our team for at least one match until, of course, they just overloaded us with those players. Now, I do expect them to bring in Ronaldo Pena. Why? Because, well, have we seen Ronaldo Pena play for Houston lately?
No.
So that's a given. And to be fair, Ronaldo Pena, sure, he might have an MLS contract, but we all know right now he's got USL talent. If he looked bad against the Austin Bold, Elroy Bold, as I like to call it, actually that
Coda Bold.
They should have just called them like Elroy Bold. That actually, I'm liking that name. But in all seriousness, yeah, if he didn't look that well and it looked like he was struggling, there you go. He's basically USL talent, as in he needs to really recuperate and get back to if he was ever MLS form. It is true from the players that we've gotten back down to RGV from if they were down in RGV, yes, they have seemed off. But as we can tell from Eric Bird, that's about a year period. They come back and keep playing for another year with RGVFC. They look fine again. They look like they had that talent right back. So it's just it's going to be weird. I don't expect them, considering that this lineup worked once again, to send down Fuenmayor, to send down anyone who
but I think
we really think was bad. And to be fair, I don't expect them to send down Tyler Derrick. I expect by the end of this season, and this is a very bold statement, but this could happen, we may see a second retirement with DeMarcus Beasley.
I want to bring this up because this weekend I was, before the Tulsa match, I was talking about it with my dad, and it was regarding the loanees that have been brought by the Dynamo to the Toros, Michael Salazar, Alejandro Fuenmayor, and Ronaldo Pena. Now, looking at it at these three individually, do you believe that that's their level, or do you think that they're playing in the way where they're kind of saving themselves because they don't want to get injured going back to the Dynamo? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to get. That they're not playing at their 100% with the Toros because they for whatever reason, saving themselves from injury, or because they don't deem RGVFC as a place where they can go at their 100%.
Yeah, it might be the case for some, but for sure I don't think it's the case for Salazar, because we've seen that Salazar is just not 100% in general. He keeps almost every match that he's played with RGVFC since, of course, coming back down here, it seems like he's gotten injured onto the field where he's had to go down for, even if it's local treatment and then he's back up and running, he still has caused a delay for most of these games. So I think that maybe just Michael Salazar, there's something brewing in with him that we don't necessarily know about, whether that's just an injury that's still continuing on from his glory days from Montreal, or maybe he's just I really don't know for him, because he just doesn't seem like he's 100% in general.
Yeah, because
so you can't necessarily give 100%.
Yeah, because when he was with the Toros, like, it was rare to see him go down, and he would go in and fight for the ball and stuff like that. And it seems like now it seems like he's a lot more vulnerable to those kind of minor injuries that make him go down during the match, and sometimes at a really unfortunate times where the Toros have the momentum, and that ends up killing it. Obviously not putting the blame on him. It's just unfortunate circumstances. But when it comes to Ronaldo and with Fuenmayor, obviously Eric Bird is in a different level. Now, I don't know if one of the influences on that is because he knows the system quite well with all these times at RGV and still being with the Dynamo, that like he knows it like the palm of his hand. But with Fuenmayor and Ronaldo, Fuenmayor doing dumb mistakes with the Toros, and Ronaldo, when he's come in, is like, it's like he wasn't even there, honestly.
Yeah. Now, Ronaldo Pena, like he wasn't even there, maybe an understatement, considering it seems like he was there all the time, but just missing opportunities. That's how I see Ronaldo. Now, Fuenmayor, I think you're definitely correct. When he comes down to the RGV, it seems like he does not care at all. He could be just on the pitch doing whatever he really wanted, or off on the bench just exactly doing whatever he really wanted, because his shenanigans, I guess that's the best way that I can put it, just continued.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the Toros, and then it just seemed like he was lacking in whatever, which is crazy. And then Ronaldo Pena is just the same deal, and maybe he didn't necessarily care to score that many goals, or he tried and just didn't have a touch, something like that. Yeah, he wasn't necessarily given 100%. Maybe he wasn't given 100% in practice up in Houston as well. And of course, yes, Eric Bird is a different story as well. I think he does give 100% for sure, because his main goal is still getting back up to Houston, which, guess what? I think after this year as well, Houston will probably need him. And if not, hopefully not cut him, because this man will probably, if being cut, will get picked up by another team. But guess what? He's actually a player that is capable of going to the MLS, starting on an 11-man roster, and, well, playing his freaking heart out. I guess 10-man plus goalkeeper roster, if you want to put it that way, too, because we all know goalkeepers can only be played by a certain player, considering they have the skill. Because, I mess around in FIFA and try to pick different lineups and see, can a striker be a goalkeeper? Doesn't normally work out, so that's how I guess you can also put it. So I guess it really just depends on the player.
The interesting part about all of this, though, where is my mouse? There we go. The interesting part about all of this is that we're talking all about the influence the Toros players have had, the positive and negative on this team. And yeah, you look back on this past Saturday's match, we only had Tyler Derrick being set down. And it was just an unlucky night for the Toros. Granted, there were a lot of things that need to be fixed. For example, here's my biggest gripe or concern, however you want to call it. I feel like Chuy Enriquez takes too long to make a pass. He wants to dribble as many players as he can, and by the time he's ready to make the pass, he's got like 2-3 players on him, and they take the ball away. There was one play in particular, I think it was in the 70th or the 80th minute, where he goes up to the goal line, cuts back, and that would have been a perfect time to cross the ball in, because I think Caliche was waiting for it. But he decides to try to take on another player, and that's where he loses the ball. And I'm like, Chuy, like you gotta be quicker in letting that ball go. It's that kind of timing that has kind of faltered, whether timing in the passes or timing of the shots. I think it's kind of hurt us a little bit in this match. Granted, there were a lot of opportunities. You look at the stats. You had where are you? Attack. Toros had 16 shots, 6 on target, which isn't bad. You're talking about almost a third of accuracy, if you want to call that. 37, more than a third, 37.5 shooting accuracy, right? But the ball just didn't want to go in. Like, it was either blocked by the keeper, or it just went a little bit off target, because it had. Here's the thing. Here's the interesting part. 4 shots blocked.
Yeah.
So the team tried, but they're missing that one little thing that'll make them a lot more lethal. And I think that has been the difference why the Toros have been in 15th and not in playoff contention right now, has been their lethality in the front. At times they're lethal, but at many times they go into such a lull where it's like nothing goes right for them.
Yeah, exactly. I can name multiple points of the game where things could have changed for the Toros besides getting a goal. You're correct on. It wasn't just Chuy taking too long to pass. It was other players doing these same.
Of course. It's just
lost.
The only reason I mentioned him is because that play just like was the one that just stuck in my head.
Of course, but I mean, yeah, you brought up a good point though. It is that the team as well, just sometimes they hold on to the ball a bit too long. You find that player open. I mean, I'm watching it from either down on field level or up in the booth, because I like to move around a lot, and we'll just see it from different sides, because it's very interesting to do that. You can see it from a tactical view. You can see it from a field view. It makes it very, very interesting. But either way, it was just those plays that could have developed that didn't end up developing. Yes, the Toros got a ton of shots on goal or just a ton of shots off during the game, and really their advantages, their chances, they had Tulsa on the ropes in that first half. But once again, just like we said, could not slot that ball in any part of the back of the net. So, boom, you're talking about a 3-0 game that could have been, or even a 3-1 game in the first half that could have been, ended up 0-0 in the first half. And somehow I was able to get a word from coach at halftime, and he just said, gotta put the ball in the back of the net, as he walked off into the locker room. And I mean, he said it perfectly right there. We had the opportunity. Of course, interpret it even deeper, but it's just so true. You had the opportunities, couldn't take advantage of them, and sure enough, we got burned at the end. But it was just those small opportunities that you say were missed, and I guess you're really nothing more.
So Carlos gets a free kick at the crossbar in the first half.
Yeah.
But then in the second half, Tulsa just came in lethal. But let's analyze the first goal, because I have the play right here on my second screen.
Yeah.
Let me see who had the ball. I think it was, but anyways, he had 3-4 Toros players on that Tulsa player, go at him, and Castellanos totally forgets about the goal scorer and leaves him behind. There is no offside because Andrew Samuels is right in front of the goal line. Everybody else is 5 steps, a full human-sized length in front of him. So Andrew Samuels puts that player on sides. Let me tell you who that one is. Come on, can be so unresponsive. So Rodrigo da Costa was the one that had the ball. 4 Toros players come at him, and they totally leave. Like I said, why is it so unresponsive? All right, Marlon. They leave him all alone, because you had Chelin. In just a smaller radius, you had Chelin, you had Castellanos, you had Zach Jackson, trying to take the ball away from Rodrigo da Costa, leave Marlon all alone to just dribble and take the shot towards the far post that there was nothing Tyler Derrick could do. But we go back to those kind of mental mistakes of everybody's just focusing on where the ball is, that they're focusing on where the ball is, that they forget about other players that they need to mark.
Yeah, exactly. Mental errors once again hurt the Toros, and also just missed passes in a way too, really leading up to that goal. Because yes, you're focused on where the ball is going to be. You want to get that possession back for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone pushing forward on both sides, kind of, because it was, for a while, it was an all-out, pretty evenly matched battle, kind of going back and forth with shot opportunities, in my opinion, or just really having opportunities in general to get to a shot. And, in the second half, really Tulsa gets their first amazing opportunity, considering Toros are just marking it That's of course another thing. Before I get to my real point, just we've seen it all season long with the marking, and the marking hasn't necessarily been as impressive as it should. Whether if that's on coach for not necessarily practicing or making that move to really help them figure out, okay, you really have to stay marking, or if they are practicing the heck out of that, and it's just the players forgetting at the time, like kind of going blank. Which, guess what? I kind of understand that because that happens to me a lot, especially with my new job. But of course, in a game like that, in your just in crunch time, basically, in the craziest moments, you've got to stay calm under pressure and make sure that you're marking. You cannot let up, and they did. Of course, they didn't mean to let up, but it happens, and well, they get scored on. So
it seems like
suffer that loss.
It seems like at times the Toros have some sort of tunnel vision. The defenders, and that play by Carlos Small in the 87th minute, trying to chip over everybody, and it gets cleared out at the goal line. It was just like it was those kind of plays where you're like, yeah, the ball's not going in. It's like no matter how hard they wanted it, like the ball was just not going to go in. But here's another concern of mine. So we all know that Carlos Small was red carded at the end of the match.
Yep.
What did you hear? What was the commotion around there that you heard at the stadium?
Oh, you didn't have to hear anything to see this. It was in plain sight. So, apparently a player could have been saying, I don't know. He got into Carlos Small's head, which once again is something that we've seen our players flip out about. Not just like we're past Houston Dynamo talking about this, but we've seen it with our own RGVFC players, where once again Austin Bold FC comes into HEB Park that first time, and right after they scored that goal, got into RGVFC's head, from Chewy's to even, of course, Carlos Smalls.
Correct.
Well, it happened again with Tulsa, not with everyone else, just with Carlos Small. I don't know what the defender was saying, but what Carlos Small did was, he was kind of like whiffing at the player for a bit. And then right after that final whistle, you hear that final whistle, you see Carlos try to start, and basically he wanted to attack him. He wanted to tackle him and whatever. And so luckily from Chewy and everyone else sees Carlos try to attack, and they try to hold him back. He was starting to get there. They were trying to hold him back, and even Tulsa players came up. It was a big commotion right at the end. So that, of course, end of the match could have been the reason why the commotion after in the locker room and how it felt was just terrible. But the ref had every right to give Carlos a red card, especially from the shenanigan before to that, trying to charge at a player and having his teammates hold him back.
Correct.
Shows you, yes, get suspended, take a breath. It is at the end of the game. You are heated up for sure. But there is no need for that in soccer in general.
There's no need for that, especially with the fact that the referee had blown the whistle already. There was nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to change the outcome already because the game is over. Like, if you're mad, if he talked bad about you, or I don't know, like you said, I don't know what the defender did. But why? Now you put Toros in a predicament where now we either have to what's the word I'm looking for? Play wing it with a false nine or something around that. Because remember, Aldo Quintanilla is still not ready to play. We don't know how healthy Michael Salazar is, and we definitely don't know how Ronaldo Pena is the effort he's gonna put in with the Toros. So now we have to rely on these three players that have been on a rut, if you want to call it. Carlos Esmal has been on a bigger rise than them. Mm-hmm. Kevin Rodriguez, we've played him more out on the wing, and that's where he's getting a little bit more comfortable playing.
Yeah.
So really, because you look at the subs, we have Shane Beckford, he's a winger. Victor Garza, midfielder. Brad Dunwell, center defensive midfielder. David Cabrera, center defensive midfielder. Zach Jackson, a right back. Played left back today because of the injury to Robert Coronado. Kyle Adams, center back. Nico Corti, goalkeeper. We don't have strikers at our bench.
Yeah, so of course you're going to have to bring reinforcements from Houston. And honestly, you might have to bring two if you're Houston. You bring in Pena and you bring in, of course, Salazar. And why would you do that? Because one of them is going to have to sit on the bench, considering that we, like you said, don't really have a striker.
Mm-hmm.
So you put that into consideration. Well, it's going to be interesting because, Julian Enriquez, to be fair, he's a winger. You see this man try to cut inside and try to create. Now, let me give him credit real quick for this game. He took just a bit too long sometimes
but he puts in the effort.
Try to get the ball into someone else's feet. But he was more accurate than I've seen in a while, trying to get that ball to someone and actually finding some spaces. He looked really well out there. He was like Isidro, good in a sense, as in, well, he was really able to figure things out and seemed electric out there. Seemed like the old Chuy Enriquez that we know and love, that we all knew that he could really turn into, was one of those players. So yeah, and going back to it, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But yes, we have Michael Salazar there. Yes, I know Toros fans are not going to be too pleased with that, but what else do we have? And it's closer to the end of the season. And of course, you hear those comments of Toros fans saying, we're in this predicament every season. Why don't we just secede from Houston, blah, 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 all that. Well, it is true. We just don't have enough depth closer to the end of the season, and that's soccer for you. Houston doesn't even have enough depth, I think. And
Nope.
That's a different story because theirs is with defenders. So it just will always happen.
And I think, to me, while I would love independence from the Dynamo in certain aspects, it's just not financially feasible at this moment. Right now, Alonso Cantu is the only owner for this team that we know of. And you can't really compare the money that Alonso Cantu has compared to. I don't think he earns more than Gabriel Brenner. And Gabriel Brenner has to deal with 3 teams: Dynamo, Dash, and RGV. Right?
Yeah.
As far as the technical aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves you with this thing. Now, if you want independence, we either have to find a way to get a bigger ownership group to join Alonso Cantu, if he's willing to sell shares of the team, some ownership stuck, or we're gonna have to go down to League One.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. What we can do is try to influence the Dynamo to treat us better, to fix their mistakes. That's what we can do. That's what's more feasible. Remember, I mentioned on Twitter, well, what about fan ownership? Well, turns out, as Harry mentioned to me, that's not allowed in by USSF in any level. So we have to make do with what we've got. If we're going to have to deal with an alliance with the Dynamo, we've got to make sure that our voices are heard by Matt Jordan, by whoever the new coach is going to be for the Dynamo, to make sure to keep our interests at heart as well, and not just the Dynamo's interests. Because it's easy to say, oh, let's be independent. But how are we going to pay for scouts? How are we going to pay for coaches? How are we going to pay for the players? How are we going to pay, uniform, unis, all plus stadium upkeep, et cetera, et cetera. That's my opinion on this subject. I know it's changed a little bit since last season. And I'm still not 100% sold on this partnership. And all of the season, all of these episodes in this past season are living proof that I'm not happy 100% with how this partnership has been ran. But I still do not think, looking at it realistically, right now, independence is not feasible. Until we get somebody else as an ownership to join in, whether it's from within the valley or from outside, preferably in the valley, But how many multimillionaires do we have in the valley? Not many.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, it's getting very interesting in the valley. Of course, yes, you live in Houston still, Edson, sadly. I know that you wanted to come back down to the valley, which will welcome you with, of course, some very funny jokes especially from the coach saying, "Oh, now you're back down here."
I got relegated.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been very strange. I've seen a lot more McLarens down here. And of course, regularly, not just, oh, I've seen it once and that's it. No, I've seen it here regularly. Which I've known this for a couple of years. There's a Lamborghini, like a Huracan or something like that someone owns down here as well. So there's people that are banking pretty nicely, for sure. Multimillionaires, maybe, but would they care for soccer? Probably.
Here's the thing though. Maybe some of them might care for soccer. Remember, you probably have a lot of people from Monterrey that are living here and have their businesses here. But do they deem it financially feasible to invest in soccer? Is a different animal altogether. You can be a soccer fan, but if it's going to be losing you money, it's not a safe investment. Now, billionaires like in MLS, like an Arthur Blank or a Robert Kraft, they have money. They have money to waste, and they can have their NFL team that's making the money. Of course, NFL teams don't make money.
No, you mentioned Robert Kraft, and I'm like, of course, yes, he has plenty of money to waste.
But the point is, they have something to kind of leverage the amount of money lost by the Revs or Atlanta United. Justin was telling.
okay, Atlanta
No,
United.
you say but you say that, Jacob. But Justin was showing me a stat. The financial aspects, what can't be released, and it seems like even Atlanta loses a little bit of money in their operations.
Yeah, I do see how, because yes, they have lost a bit of ticket sales. They haven't necessarily reached 70,000+ as much as they did last season. I do get that for sure, that they are losing a bit of money, but as long as you can almost break even at the end of the season, yes, you're not going to make money from that. And yes, your opinion is correct, Edson, that yeah, even those teams apparently lose money too. So yeah, as long as you're not losing too much money.
Yeah. Or at least you have some, or like I
said,
at least you have something to sustain it. Where you have the privilege to, like, okay, I can lose money investing in this, but I know I can get it back by with my investment in this team, in this business, or whatever. As long as it's not too much. Or maybe because Arthur Blank, or mostly Arthur Blank, because Robert Kraft has been with the Revs for how long, and it doesn't look like until now, it doesn't look like he had a lot of attention put on the Revs, right? Until they brought in Bruce Arena and things started to change for the better. But that's a completely different story. But more than anything, maybe millionaires like Arthur Blank are kind of seeing the trend of, hey, right now it might lose me money, but at the end of the day, and especially with all these new, now if I'm not mistaken, these franchise fees that Austin paid, well, no, not Austin, they didn't pay shit. But Nashville, Cincinnati, who else is coming in? Inter Miami, that franchise fee that they paid, that, if I'm not mistaken, it is shared among all of the MLS teams, and it's a considerable amount of money, So at the end of the day, it's like, maybe I'm seeing the potential that right now I might lose me money, but in the future it might actually grow at a point where I can make money off of this.
Yeah, considering why is the Atlanta United owner losing money? Well, look at his team. He's got Pogba on this freaking team.
His brother, his twin brother.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, I think his twin brother is a bit better.
You think so? You think so?
Exactly. I think a player in the MLS is better than Pogba, his brother who's playing. I think so. No, come on, man. I think I had enough of like people saying that what's his name? Araujo or Salcedo are better than Otamendi. Like Mexican media was saying throughout the week before this Argentina match. Like, please don't fall in that. Jacob, you're better than that. It's a troll.
But
I'm trolling you.
You gotta say that, because then people are gonna record this and then post it on social media saying that you think that the MLS Pogba is better than Paul Pogba.
I'm trolling you all. Don't worry.
Disclaimer.
I just like to say that to make people get upset now.
The worst part is you caught me.
What?
Like, you caught me, like I got hooked on that. That's the worst part. So, all right. Where were we at? Oh, yeah, investment groups. So, to summarize, no, it's not feasible yet to ask for independence. Now, if ownership believes that this partnership is far too crap to be salvageable, and Alonso Cantu makes the decision to become independent, okay. He's got his accountants, he's got he all of that, people that know the know-abouts about the market and about this thing. And if he made the decision, okay, he's got something up his sleeve, or he weighed the pros and the cons. He thought maybe independence is going to be better.
Yep.
But something's gonna suffer. We're either gonna lose the USL Championship spot to move down to League One because it's cheaper to move expenses and things like that, or the talent pool is going to get worse.
Yep.
Because let's not forget that our academy is still not 100% foolproof from the whole pipeline. There's still gaps in there. There's a lot of potential, like you mentioned, Jacob, before we went on air, talking about how the Toros Academy drew with the Dynamo Academy at the what was it, 16 and 17s?
Yeah, exactly. I think for the Toros Academy, it goes basically they could be called the U18s because what's our youngest player on the Toros team at the moment? Like the first team.
Oh, well, I know it was. I know before it was Wilmer Jr.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure right now. I think the youngest may be like 20.
Yeah, but you kind of get my point. It's about U20s, somewhat around there, would be our cap from 15s all the way up to 20-year-olds or so, just about. Would probably be the same with Houston, maybe a bit older, but of course they'd have more reserves because it's still an MLS team. And to be fair,
and they have draft picks
you're
too.
not going to be an MLS player until exactly.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing though, is now if for some reason, because let's not forget that right now, super draft picks in the MLS are worth absolutely nothing.
Yep.
Let's take a look. Who was it? I think it was Minnesota United and Chicago Fire, where I think Chicago or Minnesota received $200,000 in GAM in 2019 GAM or 2020 GAM for $200,000 in 2021 GAM plus a fourth round pick or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but I know it was the Loons that received that that were in the receiving end of that deal. Mm-hmm. So what you're telling me is like draft picks are worth nothing. So MLS doesn't really take them seriously because at the end of them, most of those draft picks end up going to USL anyway.
Yeah.
So why not? What I don't understand is why not make the super draft a USL thing? I think the USL would be able to use them better, allow them to grow because they are getting more meaningful minutes with the USL team than with an MLS team. Because at the end of the day, they're going to get an MLS contract. Most of them are going to get an MLS contract, but they're just going to be loaned back and forth. And it's not going to be like, well, oh, they earned their spot, so, they're in it week in and week out.
Yep, exactly. These drafts mean nothing. It goes back to the whole, also, they're like baseball picks. They're worth nothing until they're worth something. You put them in the championship league, it's going to look great. If that means a super miniature affiliation with the freaking USL team, go for it. As in, only for super drafts, you have an affiliate. That could actually work. You pay a little small fee for a team. You give, let's say, realistically.
Okay.
Of course, for FC Frisco, the only difference would be something totally different. You get a whatever team they're technically affiliated with or something like that. Mm-hmm. They actually have their own academy. Or that's another thing. You get those super draft picks, but you have to force them in their freaking academy who plays week in and week out against, different reserve teams who play against different reserve teams like the Premier League. something of that sort. You're definitely correct on this. They just don't mean anything. And I've heard that before. I remember when I used to have a Sirius XM listening to Sirius XMFC, them talk about the same exact deal where super drafts, yeah, sure, they're fun to keep up with, but in the end, they're not necessarily going to mean something until, well, that player is in their third year. Then it's actually going to mean that because that player has gained experience and is probably, in a sense, 70 rated, ready to play in the MLS.
And coach has talked to us about that. Like, he's mentioned how players coming out of college, like, they have a huge learning curve to go through just because how different soccer is played in NCAA. And so they have to get used to the new rules, to the real rules, the real time, just limited to 3 substitutions, you name it. And just the fact that the professional environment, I mean, it's different. It's way different than in college, So I keep on saying it. Why not make the decision? I don't know what Garber needs to do or what Jake Edwards needs to do to convince Don Garber to move this MLS Super Draft pick event and have the USL do it. But we go back to this whole thing because baseball does it, because basketball does it, because football does it, that they have to do it too.
Exactly. It's a huge learning curve. It's crazy. Baseball, the difference there is as well for those drafts. Baseball doesn't change from every single year besides the field size. That's about it. And the innings keep on gaining. And once you're in high school, you play the full freaking 9.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're in college, full 9. There's nothing that really changes besides, I guess, the bats. You go from metal to wood, and that could be a bit of an adjustment, but like you said, they get adjusted to it or like we said, they get adjusted to it in the minors because, well, baseball is very different, and they like to not necessarily get their best players to play so that they are rookies second year. It's been a whole story. Always late with Katie Nolan has done a story on that. I bet you Outside the Lines have, ESPN has, Fox has. It's a whole different deal with that whole draft situation. Basketball and football, the only difference there is not really. The Division I game is about as great or greater than the NFL is sometimes. So that level right there, you can instantly see, oh, that's going to be a top 10 draft pick. You can instantly see that, even out of high school somewhat. So, yeah, the drafting, it doesn't necessarily matter for MLS too much because of that huge difference in play style from college to now.
Correct. Yeah, but tell that to NCAA to change that. They'll laugh. They'll laugh you out of their offices. But anyways, guys, moving forward, Saturday against Sacramento Republic in Sacramento. Brings me chills just thinking about playing Sacramento in Sacramento.
Yeah.
So you look at where Sacramento is at right now. Oh, we'll talk about this later. We'll talk about this at the end. The culture collection. So Sacramento Republic is currently not showing up in my.
Aren't Sacramento Republic like right there on the brink of either making it or not? Because of course how open the West is.
That's what I was trying to open right now. I was trying to open the standings. Right now, Sacramento Republic is in 4th place, actually. But if they do fall, OKC is only 3 points behind them, and they're in 10th place. So the conference from 4th to heck, even 13th, you're only talking about a 6-point difference, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
However, you look at the Toros where they're at right now. They're still in 15th, but they only have 28 points.
Yep.
They're falling behind. The difference between 10th place and them was 6 points, I think, like 2 weeks ago or last week. Now it's 9. And there's less amount of games coming up. So the margin of error for this team is extremely low right now. So, guys, you got to shake it off. You got to shake it off in Sacramento if you guys want to make the playoffs. And I know they want to make playoffs, dude. You know, it comes straight from the horse's mouth. They want to make playoffs, but this team has got to learn from their mistakes, you know, and continue building on. So right now we know for sure Phoenix Rising has already clinched playoffs. They're the only one. What is it like? How many wins do they have in a row? Like
19 straight, I believe.
Oh God, I swear, if Phoenix does not win the USL Cup this year, it's a tragedy. I'm putting it out there.
Well, you say that, yet those teams that have had, forget about Golden State because I believe they've done it once, but teams that have had those types of records, they have been, well, they've gotten eliminated early.
Yeah, and playoffs. It's still a tragedy.
It is still a tragedy, but that's the trap that you fall into. Why? I think it really goes back to mentality. You have this win streak in the regular season, but you don't realize that teams pick up their mentality. They pick up intensity when they go into the playoffs. It's a great example. San Antonio Spurs have done that. Other teams have done that. Mm-hmm. Yet Phoenix Rising, yes, they're on another level sometimes, but it can easily fall off, especially when we get into the playoffs. Considering 19 wins, awesome. In a row, even better. Now we've got to focus our freaking mind. If we don't focus, we're not going to do well in that playoffs. We have to go in saying we're still, or not still, but we ain't that good. Those 19 games mean absolutely nothing. If they don't go into that, then yes, it will be a tragedy because then you know it's mentality.
So these are the last 5 results for Sacramento Republic. 4-0 win against Colorado Springs Switchbacks at home. They lose 2-1 against Sacramento Republic against Phoenix Rising. I don't know what I just said there. Sacramento lose to Phoenix Rising at Sacramento. I think I said they lost at against Sacramento or something like that. Anyways, they lose 1-0 against LA Galaxy 2. Surprising. The thing about LA Galaxy 2, who, by the way, I think they confirmed that LA2 and T2 are moving down to League 1 next year. I think that's what from the article that Sock Takes launched this week. It's they confirmed that LA2 and T2 will be in League 1 next year. And then 3-0 win over Tacoma Defiance, who those really need to be in League 2 and League 1. Like, gotcha. Yesterday they defeated Austin Bold at Austin 2-1. So you're talking about 3 wins and 2 losses in the last 5 games. Their home record. Yeah, go ahead.
That's what you call a playoff run.
Agreed. Their home record is 7-3-3. So they might not be top team at home, but they have a positive record. Us away, completely different story. And we have a lot of background of just crashing and burning at Papa Murphy's Park. That's why I'm worried.
Yeah. We do have a tendency to do that, and I'd be worried too, just due to the fact that our road record's not that impressive. It's, yes, below par a bit, for sure.
So, players to look out for. Obviously, Cameron Iwasa, 13 goals in 25 appearances. Then you have Thomas Enevoldsen, 10 goals in 25 appearances. Those are your two top goal scorers for Sacramento. Cameron Iwasa is also the leading assister with 6, and Sam Werner with 4 in those 25 matches. Josh Cohen, goalkeeper, 7 clean sheets with 17 goals conceded in 16 appearances, just a little bit above 1 goal conceded per appearance for Josh Cohen. Leads their save tally with 35 in 16 appearances. So they've got a decent keeper, decent strikers, but I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, on Sacramento.
Sacramento, yeah, they're a decent team at home. RGVFC, not necessarily that decent on the road. And like we said, we have not necessarily had a great record against them on the road. And even at home, of course, we couldn't beat them until this year. So maybe this is a year that we can actually beat them on the road. That would, of course, be a long stretch. Sac Republic, you're talking about a team that's on a bit of a run. The reason why they're in 5th place, yes, they can fall for sure, but they're on a rise in a sense. They know what they're doing. They know the game plan late in this season. That's exactly when you want to get hot, is around now. And it seems like they just, if they stay on that path, are in a pretty good shape to not only get a great spot in the playoffs, but to maybe make a miniature run, maybe have to face Phoenix Rising, yes, in the second round of the playoffs and maybe get eliminated there. But, well, just they'll be on a good run. So it's a team that RGVFC cannot take lightly, especially going on the road. Now, of course, we know most likely Michael Salazar will be sent down for RGVFC. We know most likely, since, of course, a red card has been happened, players might change around positions. That's understandable considering, well, one major thing. So it's going to be a tall task, but for RGVFC, it's still possible. I want to say it is possible. It's going to be very tall, and it's going to be very tough to win this game, though.
History, the record versus Sacramento Republic at Papa Murphy's Park. 2016, 3-2 loss. 2017, week 11, 0-0 draw. Week 14, 2017, 6-2 loss against Sacramento. The day I just blasted the team bad. It was just hideous. Lack of professionalism. Anyway, moving on. 2018, match day 22. 2-1 loss against Sacramento. 3 wins by Sacramento, 1 draw. It's not our best place to play.
Yeah. Papa Murphy Park. There's a reason why it's called Park at the end of that. It's a baseball field as well. I wonder what if someone could make, one of those charts saying how great or terrible RGVFC is at baseball fields. I'd love to see that because I know it's not too great. But moving on from that, yes, it's not our best place at all. These players are ready to play hard though, but just given the history, it's tough for us to believe that they can pull this one out. Now, I'd love it if RGVFC can prove us wrong, but in my opinion, I see a loss. I'm predicting a loss. It's tough to see anything else just due to the fact that, well, cards are against us on that table for sure. Maybe it's going to be a different story considering, well, now Carlos Small is out and who else takes that position will be amazing, immense. We'll see something that we saw with Houston Dynamo against MNU. So only time, of course, will tell because we can't necessarily predict the future, but just given the stats behind, it's tough to see this thing going RGV's way in any shape or form.
All right, so what is your actual score prediction for the match?
Score prediction 3-1 loss. We get a late goal. And my bold prediction, I guess I would say, is yes, we get the win and we score 5 goals and Tyler Derrick starts in goal.
All right, my regular prediction is 2-1 loss. I don't think it's going to be as bad as a 6-2, but it's still going to be a loss. It's going to be close, though. But I don't think it's going to be a last-minute goal. I think it's just going to be a 60th minute goal for Sacramento. Puts them 2-0. We managed to get one back. My bold prediction is 1-0 win for the Toros, but here's the bold part. Ronaldo Pena scores the game-winning goal. That's my bold prediction.
Yep, that's pretty bold. And it could happen. Well, we'll see what happens with Ronaldo Pena if he ends up starting, if he ends up coming to RGV or, to Sacramento for that game. I know one year, it might have been last year, it might have been 2018, that we talked about, I think they were having trouble with forest fires at one point.
Yes,
the air might
it was
be
last
tough.
year. Yeah, it was last year.
That was last year. So yes, we can say that was an excuse for sure, but of course a loss is still a loss in any way, shape, or form.
And especially at this point where every point counts.
Exactly.
Yeah. So before we go, let's take a look. So no, I did not want to do that. Okay. So the USL this week, right, launched what they called the Culture Collection, which is basically, oh, this is interesting. It was basically a kind of like a exercise that some designers made. They made what they called the culture kits, where they took what made the city or the region from where every USL championship team is from, and made a kit out of it with that kind of inspiration, right? So Phoenix has one. Who else has one? Obviously, Birmingham Legion, Charleston Battery, Charlotte Independence, yada yada yada. RGV has one as well. You know which one I really like? I don't know if you've seen it. Indy 11s. I really, really like Indy 11s. You should check it out. But RGVFC actually got one. Actually got a shirt, which is the one that you see right here. And I'll go ahead and make it bigger. So y'all. So according to their post about it, I think it was RGVSC that kind of posted about it. So this design is actually influenced by Freddy Gonzalez. I'm not sure if a lot of you know the story, but Alfredo Gonzalez was a U.S. Marine Corps soldier, went and fought in Vietnam. Even though he was severely wounded, he still continued to fight out in the battlefield. I believe he passed away in the field of battle. And hold on, let me look it up because I want to get the facts straight on Freddy Gonzalez. You know, I think he deserves Freddy Gonzalez, Edinburgh. All right. So he was, like I said, he was a Marine Corps sergeant who posthumously received the Medal of Honor for service in the Battle of Hue during the Vietnam War. So this design for the Culture Collection, like I said, it's influenced heavily on Freddy Gonzalez, which you know that obvious as well that the street leading up to HB Park is Freddy Gonzalez Road, is it?
Oh yeah,
No,
that's right. Yeah,
yes.
because Freddy Gonzalez Road, technically Lopezville, all that fun stuff we could get into that crazy detail. But yeah, exactly. It's like Freddy Gonzalez Road or Drive, something like that.
Mm-hmm. So, what are your thoughts on the design?
Well, I personally have not seen the design, but if you're talking about the warm-up kits or whatever, then I guess for Houston Dynamo got one too. Was that the warm-up kits that they were wearing?
Yeah, but that was for the Kick Childhood Cancer Month.
Kick Childhood Cancer.
No, so basically the design, it's a camo. It's a camo kit, camouflage, with U.S. Marine Corps nameplate, and then it says Toro on the right side. It's got a star on top of the nameplate, and then you have the Toros in camo colors. Like you need to see it. It's on the USL website, and it's right now. It should be on the stream right now. You should be able to see it. If you turn on the stream right now, you should be able to see the design. They even use Chalene's name and number, dude. I think that's amazing for Chalene. Kind of deviating from the subject, but that is amazing for Chalene that they used his name and number to present this kit in their collection. Because everybody else, you've got like Kerr, Fink, Hopi Al, is that Kyle Murphy? Yeah, I think that's Kyle Murphy, Irvin Parra, and Chalene getting, in his first year with the Toros, getting that kind of recognition to use his name in this way. So I personally like it. So apparently from what the website says, it says following the reveal of all of the custom jerseys, so not all of them have been revealed yet. I think there's still 3 more to go. Fans will be invited to vote on their top 5 kits between September 13th and September 19th, with one fan from each of the 5 teams winning a replica jersey.
Well, I'm looking at it right now, and I've never been a huge fan of camo, but it does look nice for sure. It's just going to be weird not seeing orange on a jersey in general, especially since our main color is orange for the club. What I would have liked to see for a jersey, if they were going to do something like that, is we'll do camo, but also have, like, maybe instead of the green or something like that, have orange involved in it just a bit. I understand they wanted to make it look more,
pay the homage.
Exactly, but it would have been cool to see some orange camo mixed in, but I get why they didn't do it. Still very impressive, and yes, just off that subject, for Isidro Martinez to get that name on the back, it proves proves to you how well he is, how good of a player he's been for the Toros this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Did I give him a prediction? I give my regular prediction. Well, guys, I think this is pretty much it for tonight's show. I really thank you all for your support. Talking about the Toros. So this Saturday, don't forget on ESPN Plus or on it should be under the Somos El Valle channel 1240 on time or Spectrum actually. By the way, I found out that it's basically the ESPN broadcast that they rebroadcast on that channel.
They rebroadcast on that channel the ESPN Plus broadcast.
Yeah, with English commentators and everything. I honestly thought that they would have their own commentators as well, but in Spanish. It turns out it was just a surprise to me, right? As I found out last Saturday. But hey, I ain't complaining. Free is free. And I know there are a lot of people that wouldn't pay $5.99 a month just to see their Toros. But it's not
exactly.
It's not about the Toros.
Probably tell Ray that, because I think he's been bunny hopping off of Blues fans ESPN Plus.
Lol. Yeah, but yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Hey, if you guys want, actually, I know it'll never happen, but it'd be great if they make us the commentators for the Toros. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be great. I mean, yeah.
Hey,
I'm getting experience, so
yeah, and
never say never.
And you know what? He's getting what? There we go. He's getting experience in play-by-play, Toros. Yep. So just throwing it out there.
TV play-by-play too. So also, I'd be ready for that as well as radio play-by-play.
Exactly. Who, by the way, we don't have one anymore, right? We don't have radio play-by-play anymore on the Toros. I know we used to have it for a while.
We might still have it in Spanish. I don't think so.
I don't think so, because I used to be under 1530 Univision Deportes, but then they stopped. I think they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
I wonder how much it'll be to broadcast. Hey JT, hey JT,
it would be that bad though.
Can you do us a favor? Can you let them know that we can do it for free?
Honestly,
not really. You can pay
for $5 a game, I'd say. $5 each a game, so like $10 a game.
I'll tell you what though. If they pay for my gas, I'd go every home game. If they pay for my gas to and from Houston, which is only like what, $20 from here and there, mm-hmm. and they pay the same to you, shit, I'd take it.
Yeah. In
a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, guys, we thank you so much for joining us. Next week should be a normal Wednesday. However, I'm still debating the following week, because on the 25th, which is on Wednesday, is my birthday. And I don't know if I'm going to have plans for my birthday or not. Mm-hmm. So it's still up in the air whether it'll be a Wednesday or a Thursday show for that following week. But for sure, guys, next week will be on a Wednesday. Dynamo don't play at home on a Wednesday, or away for that matter. So we should be fine. So next Wednesday, 7 p.m., be sure to join us on this channel to talk about RGVFC Toros and, of course, Houston Dynamo for a little bit, because let's be honest, guys, the whole show, like, it was really good discussion for both teams. So if you guys want us to do that from here on out, we'd be more than happy to give y'all your Dynamo fix as well, RGV fans. That way you'll know a little bit, what happens on the outside. Although, you know what? I've gotten to a point where, like, I don't really want to go in depth with the Dynamo, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that off of the air. But thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.